send me away. It will get better.
Mark here from Rock and Load. This evening I am joined by the one and only Mr. Peter Toussaint. Peter is a guitarist and vocalist of South African indie rock band Fourth Son South, and the guys dropped a new single, The Cold, this coming Friday, 7th of October. Peter, how are you?
I am fantastic. Thanks, Mark.
A pleasure, sir, pleasure. So listen, talk to me about your musical journey thus far. So look, what's Peter's story and the birth of the band, etc.?
Well, my musical story started, I assume, about 5 seconds after birth, because for as long as I can remember, my goal was to be a musician. Yeah. I grew up in the Netherlands. I started playing guitar when I was 8 years old. Played in bands. At some point, I moved to South Africa, and that's where I still am. Played in bands here, and at some point I had, I'm going to start my own band, which I did, and we started Humble, a 3-piece, and quite originally we called it the Peter T Band. Yeah. Okay, we toured a bit, made it into a 4-piece, brought out an EP, and you know what happened? Corona happened.
Yeah, the joys.
The joys of a pandemic. Out of pure desperation, I might say, I started writing and recording songs, which resulted in our full-length album that was released in 2020. After that, we have released another 2 EPs even, and on the last EP, I had a song I had written, and I knew this needs to be a duet. And I got a female singer for that song. It was called Tomorrow's Better. And okay, she recorded it. She played 1 gig with us, and then she had, okay, yeah, that's cool, but this whole band thing, rather not. But by then the bug had bitten, and I went in search for a female singer, and we ended up getting one, and I now started writing for to have all the voices in the band come out, and yeah, that's where we are now.
Yeah, and so quite the musical journey to get to this stage for yourself. Sonically, have you got a direction in mind now then, with the multi sort of vocalists and obviously harmonizing vocals, etc.?
Yeah, we have implemented the female vocalist now on I think all the songs that we play live, and just about everything is harmonized. So that is most certainly the direction vocally that we go in. The single that is being released tomorrow is a bit, I think, a bit poppier, a bit lighter, but we still like our rock and roll. So yeah, that will most certainly come back again.
Yeah, I suppose, like, when you have new band members, it probably takes a little bit of time for them to bed in and start contributing and sort of finding their own voices within the band.
Yeah, it does. But we're very happy now, and we also had the feeling, okay, we're now really onto something good.
Yeah. And so with the likes of the other guys in the band and the female vocalist, do you then have to think when you're coming to writing songs about obviously inclusion of them and maybe making them a feature within the songs?
Yes, but it's actually something that I've always wanted to have. I've always been a big fan of those 70s, 80s bands with endless vocals going, and I now have the chance to finally do that, and also have the band members to pull it off.
Yeah, that's the important part as well. It's you can write as many of these things as you can, but if the band behind you can't really implement it, then it's going to be a bit of a
it's difficult.
yeah, not quite the same. And so, where do you see yourselves going then, musically or sonically? Have you got something in mind, like, or maybe an inspiration for like somebody that you've really been a fan of that you'd like to sort of emulate?
Vocally, yeah. You can you can think of what Toto used to do, or there's so many bands of that era that used to have 4 or 5 members singing. We now have 2 lead vocalists, myself and Sarah, and our bass player Bernhard, and our drummer Carel. They both also sing, and they both also know how to sing a harmony. Yeah. So it's very easy to bring that live, and we've actually retrospective filled those harmonies into all the songs that we already had, and had, okay, I think actually this is how it was supposed to sound.
Yeah. I suppose it's a great thing with hindsight. You can go back again and maybe reevaluate earlier songs that you've written because you just maybe didn't have the tools at the time to really make them flourish and bloom.
Yeah. So at the moment, the live performances, I'm enjoying them so much.
Yeah, it brings a totally different element then, doesn't it, to the live experience for you?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
it does. When you hear all those vocals going and over the rock guitars, that's amazing.
Yeah. I've always been a big fan of bands that can pull off vocal harmonies, and I probably have so many records in my own collection of artists like that because I just gravitate towards that, and so many genres are really strong with that, like the country music as well, for example, or storytelling. Absolutely. And vocal harmonies are so strong, whether it be female voices or males, and a mixture of both. It's so pleasing on the ear. It is,
absolutely.
Yeah. And so tell me about yourself a little bit about as a guitar player. You're quite an accomplished guitar player as well.
Well, if you say so, thank you. Yeah, as I said, I started playing, I was only allowed to start playing guitar when I was 8. But for as long as I can remember, I knew, I want that. And I started playing classical Spanish guitar, which was incredibly frustrating, and it's a miracle that I kept doing it, but I did. And have been going ever since. Yeah, now I played my first gig when I was 15, and as a lead guitarist, and yeah, I've never stopped.
And are you old school in the equipment that you use?
No. I always was. I was at some point. I even a real tone purist. I need to have my guitar plugged, preferably straight into a good tube amp, and with that, one should be able to do everything. And this is true, but at some point, you want a wah. and at some point you want maybe a bit of chorus and maybe a delay here and there, and then you get to a pedal board. During the lockdown that we had here, and in which I was writing and recording songs, I built myself a studio here at home, and then it is getting harder to get that amp going and roaring, because the neighbors don't like it that much. It was then that I discovered how far modeling has come, and to the point where I had, bloody hell, I've never had such a good guitar sound. And coming out of lockdown and we could start playing again, I had I actually do want to have this tone live as well. And unfortunately my dog is going wild somewhere. Anyway,
and so which modeler are you using then?
I am now using a Line 6 Helix.
Okay.
And I'm completely over the moon.
Yeah.
Even going, I've got that thing in a backpack.
Yeah.
I've got my backpack, I've got my guitar, I jump on the plane, and that's something I could have never dreamt, that, because I mean you always have to pack so much gear, and it's now you have your actually I've got space in the backpack for some extra underwear and a toothbrush. And
Brucey bonus.
So, yeah, it's a bonus. And then the power supply and a lead, and I've got my guitar, and that's it.
Yeah, it's really changed the world of touring, I suppose, for a lot of artists, hasn't it? You know, not having to carry and rely on a massive rig.
Yeah, and with one of the bands that I also play with, our singer there, he is he's one of the top live sound engineers, as well as singer in that band, and also always a purist. And the other day we have a rehearsal, and he steps in and he walks straight up to the amp to put it louder, and I said, sorry, brother, it's straight into the disc, it's not via that amp.
Yeah, I know.
And so if I can fool him with his immaculate ears, then I know it wasn't just me. Yeah.
And so has that transformed your ability as well at home then to obviously record quickly and lay down tracks?
Absolutely. And it's now that it was one of the reasons when I built my home studio that okay, I should be able to record guitar, bass, and vocals. For drums, I will still go to a studio, because I won't do that to the neighbors. But and that's how we've been doing it for the past year and a half, I think.
Yeah. An awful lot of musicians that I've been speaking to have really, I suppose, used the time and the opportunity of the pandemic to retrain themselves in something along those lines. You know, whether it's been post-production at home, etc., so that you can do those sort of things and then really take advantage when you have the opportunity to.
Yeah, I have done post-production, so mixing and mastering of that full-length album myself, when it was easier again to get around. In the further EPs, and also now this single, I did have someone else do mixing and mastering, because even though I was still very happy with the result, the danger of bias is always there.
Yeah. Are you a tweaker? Like, would you spend a long amount of time sort of trying to perfect a song?
Whilst arranging, yes. Whilst recording, also, I like to layer. And not so much whilst be doing mixing and mastering, and that's also the reason I'm quite sure it might be that I'm so brilliant at it that I do it, but I don't trust myself there. So I'd rather have someone else do that. Yeah.
Sometimes it's good to relinquish it over to somebody else as well, because as you say yourself, you can be too close and too attached to a song. So if you leave it to somebody else, then you can sort of distance yourself that little bit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just be surprised with what they come up with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the beauty of it as well, isn't it? Getting, say, a song back and then realizing it coming to fruition.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And what are you currently working on now then? Obviously, the new single comes out tomorrow. Are you guys working on another full album or?
We're not sure yet. We've got a range of songs in various states of completion, production. Some songs where just about everyone has done their tracking. Others that are still in, let's say, the demo state that I created, and where I still have we're still gonna do it. You must still come and record your bit. However, I also know, we also know the industry has changed dramatically, and consumers hardly consume albums, EPs. They just stream the single of the moment, and so
so maybe the plan of attack is drop single after single just to keep the momentum going. Maybe
that's indeed the downside of that is that on an album you can have those songs where this is never going to be a single because it's too long or too in depth, or there's various reasons, and they still complement the other songs, and I would still like to have a couple of those as well. So we might just release singles and then at some point say, okay, and here's the complete album. Oh yeah, they include all these singles that you've already had.
Yeah. It's a hard one to navigate now, isn't it? As you say, the industry has really changed, and there's no right or wrong answer about the approach anymore, because it's going to be different for every artist, every band, every genre. So
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. And of course, one of the things of releasing an album was so that you could sell those. Well, you come at a gig with your merch, and yes, I do sell the shirts and the stickers, and very rarely I can sell a CD to anyone anymore, because nobody's got a CD player. And the difficulty is I cannot sign your Spotify stream. Sorry.
Yeah, you could try, but yeah, very true. And so, like, for yourselves in South Africa, does it feel as easily accessible to get a broader audience out there? Because obviously you're in one part of the world, we're over here, etc. So I always wonder, is there any barriers anymore, or because of the internet access that really everybody has an equal opportunity to push themselves?
I do think so. If I see the amount of radio play that we get, for example, in the UK, that's I would have probably gotten the same amount if I were in the UK. The only thing is now it's harder to follow up with a tour.
Yeah.
Because that's difficult.
Yeah. And what's the touring situation like now then in South Africa? Is everything back to normal?
More or less. There are no restrictions. However, both, and I assume, following the news, that is the same thing in the UK. Both the venues and the fans, they don't have as much to spend.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody's conscious of the, yeah. Yeah.
So it's harder to get the well-paying gigs.
Yeah, yeah. And is there certain regions or certain areas that for touring that are better than others within your own area, like in South Africa? Is it can you go just right across the country and make a living?
We are situated in Pretoria, which is if one knows a bit of South Africa, is like 50 kilometers north of Johannesburg. And so here there's a big population, and therefore also many opportunities to play.
Yeah.
In large parts of the country, it is sparsely populated.
Yeah.
The upside is people there hardly ever get live music, so whenever you come there, then they are just all too happy.
Yeah.
And then of course, on the coast, on the east coast, we have Durban, an area. There's a couple of towns in between, and the Western Cape Town and surrounds, where a lot of venues are.
And how far would they be from the likes of Pretoria?
Well, Cape Town is 1,300 kilometers from here.
Really? Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's a fairly big country.
Yeah, yeah. So that obviously is a challenge in itself.
It is.
Yeah.
Now, coming December, we're going to do a tour to the Cape, and yeah, it's a bit of a logistical nightmare, and with petrol prices as they are, yeah, but I think we get around.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, the pandemic was one thing, but now we're faced with a whole new set of challenges for people like yourself who make a living on the road, especially, as you say, because now most people are streaming music rather than purchasing music. So, as a creative and as a musician these days, it's tough times, really, isn't it?
It is. It is. As I said, yeah, and streaming. Well, we all know what a company like Spotify pays us.
Yeah, yeah. So, what do you think is the options? What would you like to see, or have you any brainstorming ideas that could salvage it for yourself or other artists like you?
I myself, whilst I'm at home, I do teach, and that supplements my income nicely. The rest will just keep on going and keep on playing. Unfortunately, and of course, it is nothing new in the music industry. The big companies will try anything to get the biggest cut for themselves.
Yeah.
And so unless you have a mega hit and you can make your demands, you will just have to do your shows and do as well as possible.
Yeah, and I was talking with another artist last night. I think it was Kat from South Africa, one of Devo's other artists, but just talking about obviously the expectation within the modern music industry. You know, what sort of bar do you set yourself realistically as far as expectation as a musician these days? You know, obviously you want to be the absolute best you can be and do the best you can, but if you're in it for the millions, I think it's a pretty unrealistic expectation these days.
It's not realistic, no.
No, I think if you're lucky to be able to support yourself and do what you do and be creative and tour and, you know, and not starve, then you're probably relatively successful within the industry these days.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So yeah, and I still rather do this and be happy than be caught behind a desk and be miserable for the rest of my days.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think again, the pandemic brought that to the fore as well, didn't it? It made a lot of people rethink their priorities in life, and doing something that they actually do enjoy and is far more important.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely, yeah,
yeah.
that's true.
So the single. Tell me a little bit about the single itself. I think it was written earlier in the year.
It was written. We are now in. Well, it was written on the 21st of June, which happens to be the winter solstice here in the southern hemisphere. And one of the reasons I moved to South Africa is because I really do not like the European winter.
Yeah.
Um,
Good call, especially this year.
of course, South African winter can be no. Okay, I in no position to complain to anyone in Europe. Um, just to say, the South African lifestyle, the houses, everything is not built for winter.
Yeah.
And it is short, but I am still suffering and counting the days for the sun to come back.
What sort of temperatures do you get there in wintertime?
Something that you will laugh about. No, our minimum night temperatures will then be like 4 or 5 degrees.
Okay.
And on the real winter days, it moves up to 17. And I hear European people already say, well, that sounds like summer to me.
Yeah.
But we also sit here on quite an elevation, on almost 1.5 kilometer above sea level. So and in an arid area, so the air is dry and it just feels cold.
Yeah.
The houses are not built to keep any warmth in, because hey, the winter is, to me it feels cold, but they are fairly short. So I was with that mindset of when is it gonna come back. I started writing, and from there my thoughts went to, one can also have a relationship where the cold has set in and where you are pining for the better days.
Yeah.
And ending with the light will come again. So that's kind of the story. And yeah, it was the first single I wrote, the first song I wrote with our new vocalist in mind. And so it's also it's again, she sings 2 of the verses, I sing 1 verse, and we all, as in all 4 of us, sing the chorus and other parts. Yeah, I really wanted to focus a bit on the vocals.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised when it kicked in with the female vocalist initially, because slightly unexpected and quite a mellow tune initially at the start, and then obviously builds up into more of a crescendo towards the end. But interesting sort of balance then with the male and the female vocals, and then, as you say, the harmonizing of the bands coming in.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it is what I was aiming for.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously then, like, moving forward, do you think then that's going to be a baseline for where you want to be then with the new music?
Vocal wise, probably. Music wise, I think this is the mellowest song that we, well, it's the mellowest of any song that we have produced, and also the mellowest of the songs that are down the pipeline.
Yeah. So lure the fans into a false sense of security then.
If it pays those millions, then I don't care.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, it's brings to mind. I'm sure everyone remembers the band Extreme in the early '90s, and I remember
Brilliant band.
all those girls running to get probably vinyl still or the CD because they had
Cassette.
heard because they had heard more than words, and that were absolutely terrified by the guitars of Nuno Bettencourt that terrorized their ears afterwards.
Yeah, complete false advertising that was. It was
Yeah,
for sure.
but well done.
Yeah, but that's it. All you need is that one big hit. Get the gravy train running, and you're set up for life then.
Exactly. Well, I don't think it's that easy anymore, but
no, sadly
we'll
not.
never know. We never know.
Yeah, never say never. Never say never.
I'm an optimist.
Well, look, Peter, thank you. I'll leave it there for tonight. Absolute pleasure talking to you. And just for everybody again out there, Fourth Sun South, dropping the new single, The Cold, tomorrow, 7th of October. Make sure you check it. It's going to be on all of the streaming services, Peter, I'm assuming?
It is on all the streaming services. And we also are quite active on our social media. You can find us on Facebook, Fourth Sun South, as in fourth, that thing that you are of your mother, South. Instagram, same thing, Fourth Sun South. We do have a Twitter handle, which is also Fourth Sun South, but in general, we leave Twitter more for politics and sports.
Just right. You're just right. Look, thanks again, Peter. Lovely talking to you, and I'm sure we'll catch up down the line again when you guys are further down with your recordings.
Thank you, Mark.
My pleasure. Good talking again, sir. Take care of yourself.
All right.